Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Screen Time with today's Communiqué. I'm so excited to have Dr. Alexis Davis spending some time with us today just to talk about mental health and the arts and how the two intersect and connect. So, Dr. Davis, welcome and thank you for joining us on Screen Time with today's Communiqué.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Let's jump into our conversation. Before we start talking about art and mental health and how the two intersect and connect, tell folks just a little bit about you and how you got into the field of clinical psychology.
Awesome. All right. So, first of all, I'm just a down home girl from Kansas City, Missouri, who has a knack for wanting everybody to feel better and be whole. So, that's really how I got into psychology. I came to Arkansas to attend Philander Smith College in Little Rock, Arkansas for undergrad. And I got connected with Dr. Patricia Griffin. She became my mentor in undergrad. And through that, I got connected through the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals. And I knew that I wanted to be a psychologist, but in terms of what that actually looked like and actually seeing that represented to me, I had never really saw that, right? And so being a part of that organization as a student member, I was able to see my dreams be actualized through people who were doing what it was I saw myself doing. And so when it came time my senior year, applying to programs, and I got that call to Jackson State, you know, since then, I've just been running and taking off and really focusing on what's the type of healing it is that I want to provide. And I know we're going to get to that. So throughout my doctoral program, I focused on the healing components and effect of hip hop culture, specifically rap music, on college age African American youth. And now I'm really generalizing that just to people of African descent and wanting to see hip hop culture across different genres, across the diaspora, and really focus and hone in on the healing that takes place through not only the listening and consuming of that, but the production of it, the writing of it, and in the whole process. So that is me as a psychologist.
That's a lot. And so, first, I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Patricia Griffin. She's only the best in the world. And
Yes.
so, to be connected with her is just, it says a lot. And so, we always want to give her props whenever possible because she is all types of fabulousness. And
Most
so,
definitely. She's the first president of the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals. So,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so you mentioned that your work in clinical psychology deals with hip hop and the connection to African American youth. But talk a little bit more specifically about how that works, specifically and then generally.
Okay. So specifically, like I said, I started that research in my doctoral program. So I really wanted to look at what is the psychological impact of consuming hip hop for us specifically, because that is it's a spiritual connection when you listen to a song. It can literally take you to the very first time you heard that song. It could take you to a breakup. It could take you to a wedding. It could take you so many places.
Yeah.
So that is like our portal opener, if you will. So I wanted to look at what type of rap music you look at and listen to, and the attitudes and perceptions that you have towards rap music and how that impacts your self-esteem, racial identity development, as well as in my dissertation, I looked at scripting. So how is it that we then look at people and make implicit biases towards them? And so that's the specific realm of kind of like my career background with it. And now what I'm doing is I am calling out and I'm working with different artists to begin doing different holistic healing modalities to see how energetic healing works with the process of doing artwork, because I do believe that rap is an art form. It is an expression. So I look at it as such. And it's also a healing modality, not like I said earlier, not just for the consumers, but for the individuals who are taking place in the production of it.
And so have you found that young African Americans are more receptive to the idea of mental health when you approach it from a hip hop perspective versus, I guess, not, or the placebo?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I actually had the opportunity to begin some pilot study work at the University of Kansas. I ran a hip hop group there. And around that time was the exact time when Nipsey Hussle was murdered. And so I remember the group after that. And we were listening to an artist, and I was like, no, 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 I got to bring in some Nipsey Hussle because we have to process this grief, right? And so I brought that in, and it was amazing to see them open up about, you know, the experiences that they were able to get through his music, and to be able to have someone to say, well, wait a minute, let's talk about this and let's break these lyrics down and see how that may be reflected and manifesting in your current life. Because I think sometimes what we fail to realize is that when we listen to music, we see ourselves in that music. And so then when you lose someone who produces that music, you lose a piece of yourself, a piece of your history. And so there has to be that grief process that's brought to that as well. And so, yes, that's what I've seen. I've seen that youth have opened up. They've been given outlets in just listening to it. I had some people bring in journal, you know, prompts that they did themselves just when it happened. So, I mean, I've seen this be very monumental in the youth. And then not only youth, I presented at the Arkansas Association of Black Psychologists National Convention, and some of the, I call them hip hop heads, um, they were in tune with the presentation as well, and shared experiences of how hip hop gave them their voice and allowed them to begin healing. So like, I think it's across generations, and hip hop is a continuum of us holding on to our heritage and our legacy.
Absolutely. That's so rich. That is so rich. Because I mean, hip hop. I think I was a little girl when hip hop finally burst on the scene. The Sugar Hill Gang and all of them. So I may be telling my age, but anyway. And so switching gears a little bit and just talking a little bit about how art in all of its formats helps us in the process of mental health and healing. How did you come upon knowing that art can help in all of its forms with mental health, particularly in African American communities or communities of color?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that came to my mind when you just asked me that question, and I'll be very transparent, was this year my best friend transitioned.
Oh,
And the very first time that I was able to sit still, what I did was paint.
mm,
I painted out how I felt because there was no words for me to say. All I could do was just paint.
yeah,
And I just started to think about artists in that realm of painting, right? That's an expression when words can't even do justice to what maybe you're feeling. You're
right.
able to express that and project that outside of yourself and still get it out. And so, you know, that's for me when it really clicked the importance of it. And then just being able to see the creatives at Philander Smith College
Right.
work through their processes through the arts that they do, whether it be dancing, singing, painting, poetry. I mean, they heal themselves through doing this work, and I think that this is something that we've been doing as a people throughout our lineage. And so again, it's our direct connection, the arts, to our African ancestry. And so that I see it important on so many levels.
And I think that, you know, some there it is important on so many levels, but then again, I think there are some segments of the population, particularly and specifically in communities of color, who have not yet made that connection. And so, how do you think that we help each other make that connection? That, you know, if there's something that you're going through, particularly at a time like this with COVID and you know, everything that's happened with Breonna Taylor's murder, George Floyd, and the list goes on and on. How do we make that connection to say, you know, if you can't get it out, let's paint, let's write, let's dance, let's sing the arts. How do we get people to realize that art is a healer?
I think first doing things like we're doing now, getting the word out, by talking about how it is and having these conversations. And then I think also holding spaces for us to do group healing so that we can hear different modalities of healing that are taking place. Because if we don't hear different perspectives, we'll stay stuck in our own. And so actually getting in community to include healing as a communal thing. And like I can't stress that enough, just hearing different modalities, because I think we may be surprised what people actually do to heal. And it sometimes we just don't have the space to share that aspect of healing.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so, so we have an exciting event coming up that your group is going to be hosting on December 7th. And
Yes.
so, with the fabulous Garbo Hearne of Hearne Fine Arts. And so, talk a little bit about that connection and what we can expect to learn and hear on that day.
Yes. So the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals, we've been doing our town hall series throughout the pandemic now, and we've started the Mindful Minute series, which happens every Monday. And so we're really excited about next month because we're going to be talking about this very topic that we've been discussing, mental health and arts and healing through the arts. And so as the guest is Anyta Thomas, and she is a wire mesh sculptor. And so she's going to come and talk about some of the things that she's created in terms of her art. She has a book, Hey, I'm a Big Girl Now, which is a children's book. She also has art journals. So what we're talking about, right? When Mesh Life Evolves. And then she also has Journey of a Masterpiece, a memoir of art, life, and creative parenting, and Broken, a collection of social poetry. And so I think just reading all that she's done, right, also highlights the healing that could take place through the arts. So she's going to talk about her process, her journey through the arts, as well as her journey through mental health, and how arts has supplemented her mental health journey and healing. And so that's going to highlight and give us an example, like what I just said, like hearing other people's story and their journey. And then it may even validate and confirm some people who are coming up and doing art as healing work as well.
Mm. And so, I mean, you mentioned your students working through processes. And so, talk a little bit about, when you're working through the process, be it in any art form, you don't have to be an Anyta Thomas, a professional artist. You don't have to be a Nipsey Hussle, a world-renowned rapper. You don't have to be a famous singer in order to pursue art, in order to heal. You can just be anybody going through the process. And so you don't have to have any formal training either, just whatever comes to your mind. It's just I think the most important part is getting it out. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, talk a little bit about that whole process of just getting it out and how to start, where to start actually.
When you said talk about your students, and then that last part you said, the first student that popped up, I'm going to shout her out, Valrika Mitchell. And I remember in Black psychology, we started that course going through African spirituality. And so there was some challenging things that we talked about based on how we're raised in this space and place of the United States, right? And so I remember Valrika going, she did this blank look, and I felt her energy like swirl around, and then she just started writing. And then I said, Valrika, share what you just wrote. And she literally wrote a poem that highlighted the lecture that I had just given.
Wow.
And her feelings too, in regards to that, in that poem, like just being in the classroom and just doing that. And so that to me, like, was the perfect story to discuss, because it showed like she comprehended that lecture through her art, and she was able to express her understanding and her emotionality towards it through her art as well. And then just a tidbit to professors as well, opening up the space for the arts to be an appropriate response.
Yeah, that's so rich. That's so rich that you highlighted a specific example just to let us know that you don't have to be a professional. You don't have to be a classically trained artist just to use art as a form to get out your emotions and to work through those emotions. again, particularly at a time like this. We're going through a pandemic. There's so many things, so many other issues that are affecting communities of color. And to know that we have that connection with art and we can use that connection with art just to help us make it through and to work through those emotional things in order to keep moving forward. I just want to tip my hat to you guys and the great work that you guys are doing and will continue to do in the future. And so I just want everyone to be able to tune in to the fabulous session that you guys are going to have, a healing session, I'm sure, about mental health and the arts with Garbo Hearne with Hearne Fine Art and the artist Anyta Thomas. So, Dr. Davis, thank you so much for your time, taking some time out to share with us about the things that you've been doing to get you to the point where you are now, and then also reflecting on the future and your future work.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm sending peace and light to everyone that will watch this. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
Yay!